After the war, this area that is now the South Bank was quite heavily bombed, and it was more or less leveled. The County of London decided to plan a series of monumental cultural venues that were built over the 3 decades following the war. The first being Royal Festival Hall. The last one to open was the National Theatre. I think one of the interesting things about them is that they had a spatial relationship and an urban relationship with other monumental institutions stretched along the Thames. So that would include the monuments of state, the Palace of Westminster, Houses of Parliament. That would include monuments of the church, St. Paul's, and the monuments of finance, the city. So you have arranged along the river these kind of extraordinary monuments to culture, the state, religion, and commerce. The shed seems to me an intervention in the urban fabric of this part of the city of a different type and a different scale than we've seen in the past. You can't help but see it in relation to the iconic national building that sits behind it, if for no other reason than it is embraced physically by the building itself. The shed sits nestled in the square, surrounded by Lasdun's, monumental building. Lasdun's National Building is designed in many ways to slow time. It's massive poured concrete. This is a building that looks like it is designed to be here for a very long time, and it therefore implies that the art that is produced within it, the theater performances we are about to see, are themselves intended to be timeless. The shed sends a whole bunch of different signals. It's very much designed to respond to now. It went up quickly, it will go down quickly, and it's a time-limited offer. This is for now, this is fit up, we can get in, we can get out, we can do it fast, and it'll be contemporary. And by being about now, it's ostensibly going to be for audiences who are interested in what's happening now.
The National Theatre is composed of very strong primary forms. The fly towers are big rectangular prisms, the lift towers, the lift shafts are very clear, strong shapes. And that very much pushed us towards a building that somehow, in a slightly cheeky way, echoed those shapes. So there is a strong relationship, just as there's a relationship between the texture of the board-marked concrete and the texture of the rough boards that the shed's clad in. But at the same time, it's clearly a different thing, something which is more enigmatic, more ironic, and something which is more playful against a building which can be very serious. We knew from the outset that the National Theatre wanted to programme in a slightly different way inside this space, to use it to do the kind of shows that you wouldn't normally do. So our first instinct was that it should be as flexible as possible, that we would just make a barn, a shed, an empty space. What was odd is that we very soon realised as a team that that was actually very limiting. It would somehow mean that you always had spaces that were good at lots of things but never did anything really well. Working with Charcoal Blue, the theatre consultants, we came up with the idea that actually this box, this rectangle that we'd found on Theatre Square, could contain a really perfect little galleried theatre, a ground floor and an octagonal gallery above it, that wouldn't be particularly flexible in the way we'd originally imagined, but would be really focused, would feel a space in which the performance space really drew the audience into it through the octagonal shape that we're using. And that straight away became the genesis of the shed design, and all of the subsequent ideas have really formed around that.
Here I'm standing in the middle of the stage area for the shed. It's arranged in a thrust configuration at the moment, but we do have the option of putting seats in down this wall as well and having it 360 degrees in the round. I think the proximity of the audience to the performers is going to lead to a really exciting atmosphere and make a kind of theatre which is really immediate, maybe rough around the edges, but all the more exciting for that.
Undoubtedly, certain configurations construct the sociability of the theatre-going experience differently. The simple fact that on 3 sides, you can see each other's faces across the stage. When it's in the round, you can all see each other. So you look at the action and you look through the action at each other. You're very conscious, I think, of your proxemic relation to each other and to the action on the stage.
The thing about the Shed is it's completely unique. It's totally different to any other theatre. So everyone who's coming here, even when the show already exists, is going to have to adapt it, make it bespoke, make it fresh for the audience who are coming here. The theatre makers are coming into this space all the time as it evolves, as it's built, as it's finished. And the shows are changing and adapting. It really is about making work very specifically for this space and about this space.
You should have left. I never dreamt you'd stay.
Well, I have a spectacular life by living in.
Any space informs the work that you're making, and it's been great to go in there and see how it's cooked up. And I mean, now's the testing time. Now that we've been in there, and we'll go in and out of the space during rehearsal and really try and make this piece bespoke for that. It's very intimate, the Shed. It's great. Everybody's going to feel like they're on top of whatever's going on, and that's great. You know, you get good actors and a good story, and you're right up against them. That intimacy, I think, will be terrific in there.
The National wants to do something, I think, quite particular, and I think very difficult to do, which is to say, this is a time-limited offer, this Shed, but we want the effects of it to be felt long after. I think the question, for me, that's kind of interesting is, what happens in here, within the walls of the National, and the way people work in the National. And that might be as important for the organisation, ultimately, as the audiences who come in the door and whether they stay or not.
Well, I hope in 5 years' time that people will be able to look at what's going on at the National and feel that the roots of that were traced back to this time. It's a great opportunity for all of us.
So I hope that everybody who steps through those doors will get a memorable and unusual theatrical experience.